Okay, folks, good morning, good afternoon, whatever. My name is Captain Paul Bates, and today I want to talk about if you're out there in the market and you're getting ready to sell a boat or put your boat, whether you're listing it for sale by owner or from a broker or whatever. I want to talk about today what kind of preparation you could make as an owner to get your boat ready. Because it's upsetting to me. It's just like, it brings it home. And it seems like this happens all the time after time after time again. And it just gets old. I want to hear your comments. One thing, when you list a boat, and whether it's with a broker or for sale by owner, and in that ad you say, hey, this is a turnkey boat. Do you think a turnkey boat should have working running lights? Do you think a turnkey boat would have, let's say, seawater in the generator, coolant? Do you think a turnkey boat could make it from the boat yard, pull out yard, and then back to the thing with the engines running? Or do you think you'd have to pull in on one engine? Is that turnkey? Somebody needs to explain to me what turnkey is, because I don't understand it, I guess, because it's hard to find one. And as owners of boats, one of the very basic, simple things is turn your running lights on. I mean, and do all your running lights work? Your green, your red, your anchor light, your rear running light. You'd be surprised how many of these boats that just basic item right there doesn't work, and it's upsetting. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so frustrating. Because I'll explain to you what happens. But before we get started with today's video, let's just go over an example of a boat. Andrew, sorry, I'm going to pick on you today. And there's a lot of them, and they all pretty much have the same story. We'll get some pretty in-depth conversations we got coming up here with a boat deal that took almost a year and a half to do. But today I just want to talk about Andrew, because Andrew, we've been talking for, the last couple of months. And he found a boat he liked, some 99 Marine Trader. And I can't really pick on these boats because I just don't need the lawsuits, and I don't need the hassle. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you're going to list your boat and you say it's turnkey, and then a buyer gets out there, I don't need to explain to somebody, what the example of a turnkey boat is. But anyway, it's frustrating because Andrew spends $3,000. It was $1,900 for the survey, and then another $1,200 for hotel, plane tickets, and all that stuff out there to go do the survey. And he gets out to the boat, and it was just the basics, man. Just does it have running lights? This particular boat, it was advertised turnkey, and I'll keep saying that because it's not fair that the broker or the owner could even say something like that after pulling a survey on this boat. And this one particular boat supposedly has stabilizers and bow thruster, and and clearly in the ad, that these are items that strong selling points of the boat, which neither one of them functioned. So don't ask, of course, the owner says, well, it's functioning, I just wasn't there to diagnose it, or this was, the bow thruster motor went out last week just before you whatever his excuse was. At the end of the day, when a surveyor comes out to the boat, he has one job to do. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science. Nobody's going to the moon. He's going to turn a switch on. The switch either comes on, and whatever's on the other side of that switch comes on, or it doesn't come on, and he marks it on the survey. So when you have a 76-page survey after it's just frustrating, just like, and Andrew, I'm sorry to pick on you in this boat, but, the people need to know, especially if you're selling a boat. I mean, if, you shouldn't have salt water in your antifreeze on your generator. And I want to hear in the comments, does anybody accept that? Just because the generator runs and fires, and then your surveyor finds salt water in the antifreeze, would that be of concern to you? Let's hear it in the comments. I want to know if that's something that may have some concerns, because it sure didn't concern the broker or the seller of this boat. They both agreed that the generator was fully maintenance and in complete operating conditions, which it was, but wouldn't you show some concern about why you have salt water in your antifreeze? I already know why, because I saw the pictures of the survey, and the cooler is gone and it's leaking, so it's leaking salt water into the system. It's just not rocket science. I already know because I saw the pictures. Do you think like the elbow for the exhaust on one of the engines is leaking? I mean, is that turnkey? Is that ready to go? The running lights didn't even work. The bow thruster didn't work. The stabilizers didn't work. The boat had to be put back in the slip under one engine because no thruster, and one engine because the engines couldn't even hold speed. You know what I'm saying? So, and one of them stalled. So, and then they couldn't get it back running. So, and you could blame. Then we get the email back saying, "Well, we're going to call Suncoast. We don't believe this survey." But the survey really is as simple as turn the switch on. It either works or it doesn't work at the time of the survey. So you could say it worked yesterday, but today it doesn't work. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. So for me, if you're going to go sell a boat and you're going to be in this market, and we're in a market, and we're going to talk about my crystal ball. We were going to do it this week, but we're actually going to do it next week. Where everybody's just hanging on by a thread right now. You've almost eliminated all of the bank financing. So when you should show some respect to these cash buyers, and you should have a boat ready with working running lights. And if you're advertising it turnkey with running engines, working electronics, whatever you say is working it should be working. And you as an owner, you can go through. You don't need to hire a surveyor. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars. You could go, you may have a little problem finding seawater in the antifreeze of your generator. That's something, that the surveyor could come back with. And really, it's not that big of a fix. It's just the cooler. It's about a $600 fix just for the part. It's probably about $2,000 with labor. But it needs to be done. It needs to be addressed. But, when you have no concern, when you have an owner that has no concern and just says, hey, I just had it serviced. That was their argument. That was the argument on it. So no concern at all that there was antifreeze in there at all. Or, sorry, salt water in the antifreeze. But, so how do you deal with somebody like that? You don't. You just have to back away and say, you know what, congratulations, enjoy your boat. Continue to enjoy your boat. I'm going to pass on this one. And another huge red flag about this particular deal was this is the second survey on it. So this, it's just the same results over and over and over again. Until you find that Scott Wally type surveyor and that type of buyer, uneducated buyer, that boat's going to have a hard time in this market. It just will. So my biggest advice to anybody moving forward in this market, especially, I want to explain the buck value, and I'll show you a little, a thing that we pull on these boats. And it's really just, just a guide. And it really just shows you, it's not NADA or anything like that. It just shows you what the bank and what the insurance companies look at. These are the reports, and it should be in your survey too. It'll say the buck value of this vessel is blah, blah, blah. And it's just a fair market value of where your depreciating asset is at this point in its life compared to other boats that have been sold in this market. And so when you're asking, and I'm just going to use this round number here, let's say $150,000 is the buck value of your boat, and then you're asking, let's say $225,000, and you can do that, but you need to put up, why is it $75,000 above fair market value? And then when you advertise it turnkey, and then you say, hey, the stabilizers are working stabilizers and thruster. That's why I'm asking all of this money. It could possibly be worth that kind of money. But when you get out to the boat and none of that stuff works, I'll give you an example of, everybody thinks they want stabilizers on their boat, especially these 40-year-old trawlers and stuff like that, especially the Grand Bankses and stuff like that. Have that system in them. It's just a fin that's down there, and it'll take you. Doesn't really do a whole lot of good in a following sea or a head sea, but on a beam sea, they can help a little bit with the waves and stuff like that. But for that system to be working, and you're asking a system that's 40 years old to be working, costs a lot of money to maintain properly. And I'm going to guess somewhere and this is totally a guess. Again, you can leave your comments. Anybody that runs with these old wings tile stabilizers, I'm going to say it costs around $8,000 a year to maintain those. And that doesn't mean you spend $8,000 every year. That means, you know, like here it is 5 years later or 7 years later, it has to all be upgraded. Like right now, I know what it costs to take an old system and bring it up to the new system part is about $25,000. And then your system would be working and operational. And what they do is they just go in and, you know, it gets a new brain. They refeed the lines, new hydraulic lines, you know, the pumps are gone through, resealed, all that stuff. And the cost on that's about $25,000. But that could be a maintenance thing of, let's say, for, 5 years. So you got to take that $25,000, divide that by those 5 years. And my number is, it could be wrong again, but that's about what it costs, I think, to maintain that system properly. There are guys that can do some of that work themselves, but it's just, it is what it is on these boats, especially these older boats, and you've got to know what you're getting yourself into. So when you're buying one of these boats and, it says, hey, it's got stabilizers on it, yeah, are they working or are they not working? And the chances of them working, I would say, are not zero. I would say probably an 8 out of 10. The chances of them working are probably about a 2 that they're working. And then even that 2 would be taken down to 1 if one's working properly, because it would have to be a guy that was, wanted those systems and then wanted to pay the maintenance to keep those systems up, because a lot of them are just pinned straight and they don't really work. So, and that's just, that's just an example of one system on a boat, and this happens to be an expensive one to keep and maintain it properly. So, as a seller, if you're advertising that your boat has stabilizers on it, stabilizer fins, and they're working, they should be working. It's that simple. It's that plain and simple. When you say, hey, my boat is turnkey, I want to turn a switch on, that system should be working, and this particular boat, it was all shiny and painty and it's all brand new, but it's, it's like putting lipstick on a pig. I mean, it's still a pig. So it just doesn't matter. It's ownership and pride and all that other stuff. And sometimes these owners, they see these COVID numbers. I think the day of that, that main ship 3,900 selling for $220,000, I'm pretty sure that's gone. I'm not saying it's impossible and it can't happen, but I'm pretty sure that those days are behind us now. And I don't think the banks have shut down. So, we're going to talk about this next week in next week's video when I predict my crystal ball here of where we're at in the market. But today it was really, again, just about a seller. If you're going to sell a boat in this market, what you should do and how you should prepare for it. And basically it's wash the boat, clean everything, go through your bilge, make sure there's no, everything looks normal and in good working order. Or it's not. You can advertise it that it's not, and that this is a project fixer-upper boat, and then you can put your price on it, and it's only worth what somebody's going to pay for it. I mean, that at the end of the day, that's all it is. And if you advertise it correctly, there's less hard feelings about it when you actually get a buyer that's going to spend $3,000, because when you get a buyer that's going to spend $3,000 to survey your boat and come out and look at it, he's a serious buyer, because he's spending $3,000 just to tell you what, that the problems that you have with your boat or you don't have. And you hope that you don't get a surveyor that you hope that when he turns the switch on, that everything works. You hope that the running lights work. You hope when he hits this the ignition switch that the engines start. You hope when he gives the gas that the boat takes off. I mean, when you go to do your full throttle test, I can tell you this right now, for everybody selling a boat, every surveyor, every good surveyor is going to put the boat at full throttle for a minimum of about 4 or 5 minutes while he does all of his checks and checks for heating and stuff like that. If your boat cannot pass that test, then you do not have a turnkey boat. You have a boat that needs some work. And you should advertise it that way. That's the way it should be advertised. Because especially these turbocharged engines and stuff like that, if the aftercoolers, a lot of people don't, they buy these boats, the brokers don't tell you that that taking care of an after-cooled system is inexpensive, just like what we just talked about with the stabilizers. That's another expensive system when you have turbochargers or superchargers on your engines to maintain and keep working properly. So I mean, I don't know if you can recoup that money or not, but when you go to sell your boat and you say, hey, I just put $30,000 worth of maintenance on it, so I mean, that's what it took to operate and own this boat. And you know, I don't think you can add that to the price of the boat. I don't. It's not, I get, some people do. And some people think that they have to be paid for it, which, you know, whatever, you know, that's your prerogative. And if that's what you want to do, and then you want to try and pass that on to the next buyer, that's fine. You know, and I'd rather go to a boat that was turnkey and everything was working, and maybe negotiate the price, and it was over buck, you know, like it was over buck value, but it was done because everything was working on the boat. But again, because when you advertise your boat as a turnkey boat, and really on this particular, sorry Andrew to call you out on this, nothing really worked. I mean, I think some of the electronics came on. I think the paint job looked good. But besides that, I mean, you know, the air conditioners didn't work properly. The generator had salt water in the antifreeze. The running lights didn't even work. You know, it was just, I think 2 out of the 4 running lights, I think one worked. I think the port side, one came on, the rest of them, no lights, which is change the light bulbs, clean up and put a little fluid in it. You know what I'm saying? Whatever, not fluid, anti-rust or anti-corrosion spray on the bulbs and put new bulbs in there. You know, but I guess it's not important for some people to do stuff like that. Have all your flares up to date, all your safety equipment up to date, your fire extinguishers, your flares, everything that the Coast Guard would require for that boat to operate. These are just super simple things that can be done, and you can do them yourself. It's got to have a carbon monoxide detector. It's got, you know, does it work? Is the battery changed in it? You don't need to pay a surveyor thousands of dollars, you know, to tell you to do that. You should automatically do that, especially if you're selling the boat. And everything, just about everything, on just about any boat that's worth selling, this is something that's you know, a seller could possibly do in a week's time if he took his time and just started from the front and worked his way to the back. But you know, I go on some of these boats and they're just dirty, filthy. Engine rooms look like, you know, nobody's been in them for a months at a time or years at a time, and it gets frustrating and it gets old. And sorry to take the frustration out on you guys, but I mean, you just get tired of it sometimes. Anyway, if you got anybody needs anything, just reach out. Please feel free to reach out. I know it's a scary, spooky thing out there. Especially as we make this transition into this new, what I call AI world that, you know, can be fair or unfair, especially to us older guys that we don't know how to navigate it and stuff like that. It can be rough. It really, really can be rough. Anyway, peace out. Thank you guys so much for watching. You have no idea how much I appreciate it. And your time and your love and your comments. And, you know, a lot of you guys I have a personal connection with. I have a very small niche. But that small niche of following has become super, super important to me and the people around me and everything. Anyway, peace out, lots of love, and I got to go right now and deliver a boat this week, and I'm a little bit nervous, but we'll see what happens. I'll tell you in the start of next week's video. Anyway, thank you guys. Bye.